Last day of this 2-day sale. Get an extra 10% off almost everything. Plus, save up to 30% off all appliances. And that's not all. Get an extra 5% off all appliances with your Sears card or 12-month special financing on all appliances over $499 with a qualifying Sears card, or free delivery on appliances over $499 with your Sears card. So what are you waiting for? Stop in at your local Sears Home Appliance showroom and start saving today. Exclusions apply. See store for details. Remember, today is the last day. 1621 Northeast Baker Street, McMinnville. Time we went down to Harvest Fresh, 3rd Street, downtown McMinnville. Check in with Bob and see what's on special.
Great. First of the month, April. Deals going on this week. Of course, don't forget, we got Easter just knocking at our door here coming Sunday. It's early Easter this time around.
Yeah.
So we got some great items, though. We got California strawberries. I mean, they're at their peak right now. 2 pints for $5. We have Camise pears at 59 cents a pound. We have those ever popular Ambrosia apples still at 59 cents a pound. That is a heck of a bargain, I got to tell you. We also have over in the organic section this week, we have clamshell grape tomatoes at 2 for $5. We have Pink Lady apples, organic sweet and crisp Pink Lady apples at $2.49 a pound. We have a new item in this week, Dave. It says what I'm going to call first of the season local product from Kukuland Farms. We have bunch red Russian kale at $1.99 a bunch, and she also had some great looking bunch sorrel. And this is a really good cooking green. It's got a little bit of a tinge of a lemon taste to it.
Oh, boy.
And those are at $3.29 a bunch for those. So if you want to experiment a little bit with some cooking, you'll have a lot of success with that one. We also have, this week, we have the 2-bite medley potatoes, and these are red, yellow, and purple potatoes at $1.89 a pound. And we still have that conventional bunch asparagus at $2.99 a pound. And then we have no spray living butter lettuce at $3.29 each. Over in the meat department this week, we have free-range diesel turkey tenders at $7.99 a pound. We have Harris Ranch, your choice, top sirloin steaks or top sirloin roasts. These are antibiotic, hormone-free at $7.99 a pound. And then we have wild-caught red snapper fillet at $6.99 a pound. And that's going to do it for the ad, but I just want to share with everybody, don't forget, we still have all those holiday items that you can still come and get fresh here at Harvest Fresh. We have the whole cooked Easter dinner at $89.95, and this will feed 4 to 6 people, but you get your choice of a ham or a turkey, and it comes with a relish tray, mashed potatoes or scallop potatoes, fresh asparagus, gravy, walnut nut stuffing, cranberry relish, and it includes a pie also for $89.95, and you can call ahead and order that if you'd like to. And then we also have free-range turkeys on ad still at $2.69 a pound. Now, we have frozen these guys, so they did come in fresh, but they are frozen now, and we'll just pull them out ahead of time and get them nice and thawed out for you. We also have boneless leg of lamb this week at $8.99 a pound. And we have rack of lamb at $14.99 a pound. And then the folks that love duck, we have whole duck at $3.99 a pound. And that's going to do it for this week, Dave.
So, boy, you can let Harvest Fresh do the cooking.
Absolutely. Oh, well, you know, Kristen, she does it up right and good.
Oh, very, very good. So, no fooling. Great specials, great people to take care of you, and healthy food. It's Harvest Fresh, downtown McMinnville. And say hi to Bob.
Yep, and don't forget, folks, we're closed Sunday, so get in here and get your shopping done by Saturday.
And happy Easter.
And happy Easter to everybody and you, Dave.
listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM, also streaming on Facebook.com. We are talking now about some hydrangeas. And this is where I get confused. I really do. I get confused every year about the hyacinths, the hydrangeas, the azaleas. I think maybe they all sound too similar for me to distinguish them, but there's definitely a distinction. So the hydrangeas that we're going to be talking about, and we are talking about hydrangeas, right?
Right.
Because I also interchange them often. These have these nice little serrated leaves. They look really, the leaf structure for me is really nice, because when those come up in the spring, you've got these nice green, but it's almost like you could cut stuff with the serration around these leaves. And then inside, when these flowers come up, it's an indescribable kind of a flower thing. It's weird.
And it's indescribable from the standpoint that there's so many varieties of them also.
Right.
There's the ones where you can pick one big round blossom, and it's like you're holding a bouquet when you've got one blossom. And then you've got the ones that, I call them starfire, because they just have...
And that was the description, because we've got it pulled up on the computer screen here right now, and it looks like when the firework first explodes in the sky, and those little small things, and you've got these flowers, but then you've got these extensions of large actual flower-looking butterflies out there too. That is an amazing variety. That's from your backyard?
That is in my backyard. It's a climbing hydrangea. I love it so much I've actually uprooted the poor thing and moved it twice, from Paulsboro, Washington to Covington, Washington, and now down here 4 years ago. And it just loves it here. I, of course, had to cut it back when I moved it, but it is on a trellis. And one of the nice things about the climbing hydrangea is that if you train it up on a trellis, it can go as high as you want it to go, but blocking a fence or an unpleasant view or just something that takes your eye, I see it from my kitchen window.
And I pulled up a picture on the computer screen here, and what we're looking at is on your fence line.
Yes.
You've got this climbing hydrangea, and it's flowering down at the lower section. It is climbing much higher than that, and you've got these bright, dark green leaves.
Yes, and that plant will keep going higher. And the reason that it's flowering low like that, not higher up, is because it was moved and where I pruned it. So that other growth that's going up higher, probably next year will have blossoms also.
And how tall is the vine reaching up there at its highest point?
This one right now, the shoulder of it, just above the plant itself, that is at about 6 feet tall. In my yard, there's a 6-foot fence behind it. The hydrangea actually is very, very easy to control with pruning and keeping it where you want it to be. So you can have it there, and I keep it, that one's about a foot away from my fence, so I'm careful to prune the back also so it doesn't invade the fence in the neighbor's yard. But you can keep it where it's only about maybe a foot to a foot and a half thick, and it's up high, and it's a beautiful backdrop for all of your summer flowers and spring flowers and bulbs that you would have in below it.
So not all hydrangeas are climbing.
No, they are not.
And
most of them are bushes. The majority are bushes.
Right. Do you have any, because I have one that when we moved into our house, it was unbeknownst to me. I did some digging right in front of the house. So I thought that I had uprooted everything that may have been there, and I laid down rock. But then lo and behold, this hydrangea sprouts up. And year after year, it's come back and just gotten a little bit bigger. I don't foster it. I don't give it any food, nutrients, or anything like that.
Survived in spite of you.
Exactly. Exactly. And every year it's gotten a little bit of flowers, and now I'm expecting this year that I'll have at least a bouquet worth of flowers.
Yeah.
And I don't suspect it to be a climbing variety, because I would have thought that it would have gone up and out and everywhere.
Yeah, you would know, because instead of being bushy, it would have long trailers on it, and you would be wanting to train the trailers to go where you want, because when they're young, you can tie them up to the trailer very lightly with zip ties or twist ties or string or whatever you want to, and get them to grow the direction you want. You know, a climbing hydrangea, if it goes unattended, could go 40 feet tall.
Tall?
40 feet up a wall, or yeah, it can.
Oh my gosh!
But like I said, this one I've moved twice. I've had it for, gosh, I forget how many years now. But because of pruning, I've controlled the growth pattern. I have a fuller plant closer down, a beautiful backdrop. And, but the bushes are the same way. They can get really huge. I have some of the bush-style ones, 2 of them in my yard. It's kind of a back tribute to my grandma. She always had hydrangeas in her yard. But I have one of them that's white that gets these beautiful cone-shaped flowers. And I have another one that is further out that I'm moving things away from it so it'll have more room because it gets the big blue flowers on it that are gorgeous.
And we should talk about those flowers on the hydrangeas because that is one of those neat gardening tricks, those things that you learn on the way that the hydrangea changes its color, because you've got the pink and you've got the blues, and you don't have greens, you don't have
There's actually
browns.
well, you can get brown ones if you dry them, and they make beautiful dried
That's so
flowers.
true. They
too.
do end up turning brown and
Yes,
stickly,
they
but the colors that they have are the pink and the blues, and that's because of the aluminum soils that you can put into the soil.
Yes, yeah. And we were talking before about the myth of throwing horseshoes underneath them, which Grandma used to do, but
Right.
the aluminum is basically what lowers the pH for them.
And that's what you're looking to do. So to encourage the blue flowers in the hydrangeas, you lower the pH and so you water with aluminum sulfate at a rate of 1/4 ounce per gallon of water. And you do this a few times weekly, and then you want to make sure you're doing this in the spring and in the fall also. And that's how you get the blue ones. But then you might be looking for more pink. Your pinker flowers, you can go ahead and raise the pH by adding lime at the rate of 1 pound per 10 square feet. So you use the lime. And then the surface soil, you do that once or twice a year. And then this will get you the correct color of pink. So you're making it less acidic.
Yeah, and of course, when you're considering what color to buy to put in your yard, when you're making a purchase, you want to consider what other color plants are around it so the colors complement each other. The hydrangeas make a medium background for bulbs and spring flowers that you might want to plant around the base in front of them and so on. There's and I can't remember the name of the farm. There's a gentleman that up above Newburgh has a hydrangea farm, and Pete and I went up there when we were get our bushes, and he had some absolutely amazing ones that I had never seen before. You have to drive for miles up a mountain road to get to him, but it is amazing how many there are.
Because they're like the daffodil that we were talking about a few weeks ago, is that you can get just interbreeding happens, and the way the genetics work on them, the hybridization just happens in each generation so quickly that you can have a different variety every time.
Exactly. And propagation on them as far as that goes. If you have some that the bushes or the climbing ones, either one, you can actually root off of young branches. And
one of my favorite terms for rooting is the serpentine method, and that is what you actually did with these cuttings that you brought in, is you go ahead and you just drape a long portion of the stem into a pot or even into the ground itself, and you just mound the dirt on top of an elbow part of it.
Right.
And so from those little areas that's underground, you get roots that popped up, and I'm very impressed to see your rooting that you've done on here. Very successful.
I forgot to do it yesterday, so I went out with my flashlight last night and cut these off. And at the bottom of that bush, behind the heron's feet over there, you see that right now it's grown clear down towards the ground. I'll be pruning it up a little ways here in the next month or so that my flowers below won't be in the way. But those ones that are drooping down, we're coming off of the bush itself, like this, and throw a little dirt on them. And you can see all of the roots that we have going on here. So I dug these out so I could bring them in and show you.
So what you've actually done is, for the people on the radio, you've got about a 10-inch section there that you went ahead and you just laid it down underground, put dirt on it. Would you put a brick on top of it?
No, I didn't need to. Our soil is heavy enough, and this branch was young enough when it went there that the soil itself just did the job for it. But I can actually take this little guy right here. You can see there's quite a few roots on him, and he will go into a pot when I get him home today.
Hey, you got branches that have rooted also apart from the larger stem.
Right. I like the idea. I was reading about some of the research material that you got for me on different ways of doing this. Like you say, laying them down and putting a rock or a brick on top of it so that it weights it into the soil to get that root going. But the one I really liked and I hadn't thought about before was taking a gallon-sized flower pot full of the soil, cutting a slit in both sides of it, laying the branch inside, soil, branch, more soil on top of it, and guess what? When it's done, you nip off the other end, and it's already potted, so you're not disturbing the roots to move it.
And so you would do that with a plastic pot. You just go ahead and slit it, and then you lay a branch right next to the plant, and you just cover that up with soil. It is a really good idea.
And you can put root toe in if you want to, but you know what? These guys root so nicely and so easily that you don't really have to.
It's
but
as though they were designed to propagate that way.
They really are, and I'll be able to make several different plants out of this one because of where the roots are here and where the roots are here. So this guy will be a larger plant up here, and this one down here will be a smaller one.
Yeah, so really from I'm looking at a 1 foot section, you're going to get probably about 3 or 4 plants, and then from that 10-foot section, you're looking at about 3-4 plants also.
Yeah.
So good job on that, very successful. Way to spend your winter.
Look at all those beautiful new leaves growing up on the top of it and stuff.
No, that's what you're looking for.
These are gonna make great plants, and so a couple of. You don't usually want 5 or 6 of these in your yard.
No.
It's going to take over. But
well, how do you put them together? Because that one that we're showing on the computer screen, that's just one. That's just one.
That's one
and
plant.
It's spread out 5 feet
and
wide.
When I got that plant, it was like this.
Wow. And like this is 10 inches and nothing.
Yeah. So that's what it was like when I first purchased it, and it's a really good fun way to be able. I mean, you can go out and purchase demonstration plants, the ones that are ready to put in your yard, and it's instant gratification. But if you're patient and you want to fill in slowly and do it less expensively, this is a wonderful way to do it.
Yep. So, but the best time to prune is going to be in the late fall.
Yes.
So now you can prune them now. It's just you're going to get
well, there's kind of a rule of thumb with pruning that you can prune up to a third of a plant anytime.
I just remember reading that. I was wanting to work that in somehow. Thank you for working that in.
Up to a third of a plant anytime without harming the plant. But if you're doing a severe pruning every few years, you have to do it during the dormant period. So in the fall. But yes, and in the fall is a really good time to do this because they do drop their leaves and they are deciduous, but still the branches climbing all through that trellis that's behind it there has a very interesting architectural effect. So I can go out while it's dormant and prune it to where it's going where I want it to go and be able to see everything without searching through.
Yeah, it is kind of twiggy, but one of the things I also noticed about mine is it seems to be like an everbud plant where it just looks like the buds are always there at almost any time they could actually burst, because you've got this twig that might look like it's dead otherwise, but you've got these buds that are just constantly there.
Are those the ones they call nodes?
Yes, at the nodes. They have those buds at the nodes.
I had to learn that terminology from Patty. I just always thought they were buds also, and she says those are nodes.
Okay, I'm sorry, Patty. Great. So that's the hydrangeas. We can get a bit more into that when we come back from the break, but we're going to take a break. You are listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM.
Time for a look at sports from KLYC.
This is your NBC Sports Radio update.
Here come the Pelicans, and with less than 2 weeks to go in the NBA's regular season, Anthony Davis and the Pelicans are now just a half game behind OKC after their win in Sacramento and the Thunder's loss in Memphis. Things are also tight in the East, with the Nets now in the 7th spot, 1 game ahead of Miami and a game and a half ahead of the Celtics. Also Friday night in D.C., John Wall racked up a career-high 18 assists as the Wiz routed the Knicks. Wall, of course, went to Kentucky with the Wildcats continuing the pursuit of perfection tonight in the Final Four against Wisconsin. After Duke takes on Michigan State, you can hear both live on Westwood One beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern. One NFL note, the Colts have signed former Falcon safety Dwight Lowry. I'm Jeff Biggs, NBC Sports Radio, and the NBC Sports Radio mobile app.
Follow defending Masters champion Bubba Watson and the world's best golfers April 6th through the 12th on the tournament's official website, Masters.com. Get closer than ever to the beauty, tradition, and excitement of the Masters tournament by logging on all week long. Masters.com offers live, full-screen HD video coverage, real-time scoring, plus up-to-the-minute tournament news, statistics, and more. Masters.com, your online source for the 2015 Masters.
Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and pick up a 5-quart jug of Mobile Super Conventional Motor Oil and a MicroGuard filter for $16.99. Extend the life of your vehicle with a 5-quart jug of Mobile Super Conventional Motor Oil and a MicroGuard filter for $16.99. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Big company support with small town service in electrical, security, communications, and industrial control. That's D&D Electrical McMinnville. When dealing with security and life safety systems or downed electrical equipment, response time is critical. D&D Electrical provides 24-hour service and support that places you in direct contact with D&D personnel who can be at your facility inside of 1 hour from the time you call. 503-472-4003. Ready to go to work for you right now. D&D Electrical McMinnville.
We're back. You're listening to The Root of It right here, your weekly gardening show on KLYC 1260 AM. We've been talking about hydrangeas, and what we need to talk about right now is the cutting and the drying of them. You have a dried hydrangea actually right over there, don't you? Was that a...
Unfortunately, that was a plant that was dying in Dave's office.
Okay. It looks like a dried hydrangea, which is oddly enough. It's
I know, but look at this poor thing. I'm going to actually...
What was that, a poinsettia? It was...
No, it's not a poinsettia leaf, but I'm going to take it back to the Master Gardener office, and I'm going to try and identify what it was and find out what Dave so nicely killed here at the studio.
Wow. Good researcher there.
There you go.
So, no, when you pulled that out, I assumed that it was a dried hydrangea.
I could have brought some because I have some at home, and they are courtesy of leftovers from some of the Master Gardener events, and they're used to decorate. They're, like we were saying, one flower is like a bouquet, so we use them a lot in decorating and so on along that. But when the hydrangeas, not necessarily the climbing one, I've never tried those, but the bush variety, you can cut them while they're beautiful and use them in a display, and then when you don't need the display anymore, you can take the flowers, the blossoms themselves, and just like maybe tie the base of them together with string or whatever, and hang them up someplace and let them dry, and the color will change slightly. Some of them will get brown, but for the most part, if you don't dry them in the direct sun, they will still be very attractive for decorating for the fall.
All right, so you said a couple of things there that stuck out to me. The drying of them, when I have had my hydrangeas dried, they have been in the direct sun and they've been brown. And so I had always assumed then that when you dry hydrangeas, they're brown and they're not like daffodil or something like that. They just dry nasty.
They don't necessarily. It depends on how you dry them, what exposure they have, and so on.
Yeah,
like
that makes sense.
They still aren't the bright, beautiful colors in the garden, but they are still very attractive because of their more muted colors in fall arrangements and so on.
And so you can also dry and hang them upside down. And,
Yes.
And so that will preserve a different kind of structure look to them.
Right. Sometimes if you try and dry them while they're standing in an upright position like they would on the bush or something, then that they kind of bend in different
They just
directions and
droop
everything.
down and look very sad.
right. Right. But if you hang them upside down, then when they dry, they're going to hold their shape.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great.
Yep.
Another way to
And-
use them.
And so what else do we have on the hydrangeas?
We
Any
talked a
last
little bit
thoughts on the
about one of the
hydrangea?
things that we didn't talk about is that they are very, very, very self-sustaining in that they are not prone to the diseases and the pests that are in the yard. Once in a while they might get some slugs or something, but you don't really need to worry too much about bugs coming and eating them.
Yeah, the slugs can be a problem, but you're right. That they don't seem to affect mine. The only thing that affects my hydrangeas is the blight. You might get
Right.
those black
And
spots.
powdery mildew if
and-
they're too wet and shady.
Right, but the blight is my problem because I don't water them. And if you water them, they apparently if you take care of your plants and you feed them and you water them, they're less disease prone. So
That's like that with everything in nature, Kyle. If you didn't get any water, you'd die too.
Apparently it is happening. It's true. Okay, so we've got a few other things that we can talk about, and the plant that I often mistake for the hydrangea, other than the hyacinth, is the azalea, which they're not entirely dissimilar, but they're not entirely similar either. It's more like a rhododendron.
Azaleas in the same family with rhodies.
Right. So
Right.
what we have right now going on is the azalea lace bug. And it's relatively new to Oregon. It really wasn't cited until 2007, which for me seems really, wow, this is a strange thing. And so it's relatively new, but it's causing a lot of calls to come into the extension office. What is this stuff?
Right.
And it's because it's a disgusting looking effect on your azaleas, which is you get these black tiny spots, and they're just all over the underside of the leaf.
Under the leaves, correct. Yeah, and what actually happens, I think, a lot, not research-based, but experience-wise, is that a lot of the things that we didn't used to have here, we have now because they've migrated from other areas, and sometimes it's because somebody has moved and taken a plant with them to a different area, and maybe it was infected in their area, and it's just like human diseases. It comes into an area, and then it spreads, but it's not native there, and then we have to figure out how to control it.
Yeah, this was actually one of the first questions they got at a plant clinic at the farmer's market in McMinnville as a master gardener. Someone brought in their plant, and it had these black spots all over. And these are just tiny little black spots everywhere, but they're on the underside of the leaf, which is where these things are living, these azalea lace bugs. And these are actually true bugs. They have sucking mouth parts. So if you want to know what distinguishes a bug from an insect or a regular insect or anything like that, the sucking mouth parts. And so what they'll do is they'll go ahead and they'll get into the veins of the underside of the plant. They'll start sucking it out, and then they poop.
Right. And that's what the brown stuff is, you see.
Right.
The black spots aren't the disease.
It's
the
oddly
result.
enough very sticky. So yeah, somebody brought this into the Master Gardener plant clinic at the farmer's market, and nobody really understood what it was. And when we found out what it was, because I Googled, I actually took a picture and I Googled it, and it pulled this up. I was surprised that it wasn't seen more, but then I found out that it's a newcomer.
Right.
So we've got this thing, and again, it's showing bigger signs right now because we had that warm spell, and people might not have been watering as much. So the plants are a little bit more prone to these kinds of diseases. So if you get the sucking out of your bodily fluids and you're not replenishing them with a lot more water, then it's a larger effect. So that's why it's coming up more right now.
The weakened condition will always make it more susceptible to anything that's going to invade its space or invade the structure of the plant and so on itself. And unfortunately, like you say, a too wet of a cool environment encourages that also.
Yep.
One of the things that people should remember when they're putting in their azaleas and rhodies and so on is if it's got small leaves, it needs more sun. If it's got large leaves, it can go a little bit more to the shade.
Oh.
Because the photosynthesis, the sunlight that hits the leaves and everything, are absorbed more into the larger leaves than the little ones.
They have larger solar panels, so
There
they
you
don't
go. Exactly.
need to have a whole lot of it.
Exactly. So that will help them to sustain and be healthier also if you have them in the right environment. But basically, what can we do to get rid of these guys?
You can cut the leaves off if you're not doing the spraying.
Mm-hmm.
Spraying is really what we do is with the watering.
Right.
The problem is that they overwinter as the eggs underneath,
Mm-hmm.
and they're hatching in late April to early May. But it's earlier now because of the worm, and they're undergoing these 5 immature stages. And just looking at the 5 stages of these things is enough to give you the creepy heebie-jeebies,
Yes.
the crawlies. And
Yes.
then they can go ahead and produce 2 to 4 generations per year. But that's one bug producing 2 to 4 generations, and then you've got multiple bugs producing
Well,
2 to
sure.
4 generations.
Yeah,
And then, so
it's
then
like your kids, our little stair steps going down the line. They just keep on going. But yeah, seriously, because you can't expect to spray or treat once and
Right.
have it be effective. It needs to be done consistently over a measured period of time, depending on the product you're using.
So
And
like
I'm going-
insecticidal soaps.
Yes.
Those are known to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
But really also taking care of the plant, making sure it has the fertilizer it needs, making sure that it has the water
Right.
that it needs also is going to go a really long way. But you get the water, the hose out, and just spray.
Right, and encouraging the ladybugs and the birds and so on that eat the critters
Right.
is a really good way to help control it also. So if you have your environment to promote the good and eliminate the bad, everybody's happier.
Yep, so we got some azalea lace bugs in there. We got some hydrangeas in the show. We got some good things out there today, Sharon, but it's all over.
Oh, no. Gosh, the time goes by so fast. It
I
really
know.
does.
I know. So it's 10:03 here in the Yamhill County. If you missed anything, just go ahead and go to YouTube and search KLYC to the root of it. That's when today's show will be up there in just a few scant moments. So
Yep.
we'll be back next week. Sharon, do we have you? Do we have you next
You
week?
will have me and Beth Durr, and we are going to be presenting, or basically Beth, since she's head of library, will be presenting a lot of information on our library research system.
And the kinds of books that you're wanting to use in your garden, for your garden. And so we'll have a couple of book reviews too. I hope that you bring in a book or two that you enjoy. I know that I have a whole entire library of my own that I could bring in, but I'll grab 1 or 2 books.
And you could
to
even
in.
bring your planner.
I've got a really nice planner too. Oh gosh, I've got to scribble some notes in there right now to make it seem like it's more used. But thanks everybody out there for listening. Right now, we'll go back into the regular programming here in KLYC. But you have been listening to us here to the root of it, KLYC 1260 AM. And as my friend Ray always says, keep your tools sharp.
Got it.